Hey guys, welcome to the channel and welcome back to another video. On today's quick video, I want to talk about budgeting, right? The budgeting technique that gave me power and control over my money. Now, guys, I have sort of a weak signal in terms of video signal, so bear with me if we kind of cut out. Don't worry about it. I'll still be here. We'll keep her rolling and keep going. And if anything, nothing else, you can at least hear my voice. So we're working on getting our signal a little bit better as we speak. So this is the one budgeting method that will help you get a lot better with money. And I got a comment about budgeting, so I thought I'd address the somebody asked me, how do I budget my money? So I wanted to show you guys specifically how I budget my money. And so I said, let's spend some time talking about it and going over and explaining the technique, the one technique for budgeting that really helped me sort of take control or get some power over my money, right? The one thing that most people have that most people don't have, that don't do well with money, is they don't feel like they have power. They don't feel like they have control. And when you're out of control, you don't have any power, you feel powerless, then oftentimes what happens is you get frustrated. You get stressed out, right? You're making a whole bunch of money, but you just don't feel like you have a lot of money, right? So that's kind of what happens. And so I said, hey, how do we take control of, how do I take control of my money over the last 20, 30 years? Is by budgeting. Believe it or not, guys, as you come in here, appreciate you being here. Thank you, Willie Wilo. Thank you, Gary Pennington. Good to have you, Grayman. Let's see. Big Payback is here. Ed is here from San Francisco. Good to have you. Got Boynton Beach back in the house. Good to have you as well. So over the course of the last, since 1994, I've done 359 monthly budgets in a row. I know it sounds weird. It sounds a little strange, but I've done a monthly budget every single month since September of 1994. That's 359 budgets in a row. And that's when I first got my first check out of college as a teacher. Had my first real job. I started budgeting my money on paper, and it was a notebook up until, or it was a, what they call a little ledger book up until up until 2017 or so, when I put it on a spreadsheet. So it, I've been doing this a long time, and it's taken me, it's one of the main pillars or main things that's really helped me grow with my money, get better with my money. And I've been working with this budget. I've been working with what's called a split budget, the split method of budgeting, since about 1996, 97, somewhere around that. So I've got a little history with this, guys. So the split method, right? Some people call it a bi-weekly budget. I call it a split method. It's essentially you're splitting your expenses in half each month, right? So I use this split method of budgeting, and I do it as a zero-based budget where I spend all the money on paper first at the beginning of the month, right? And by the way, Nigel's in the house. Good to have you, Nigel. Mike Pearson's here. Thank you so much. Hey, Stylish from South Africa. Good to have you here. So again, guys, kind of a weak signal. We're working on getting the signal a little bit better. And hopefully we can, and hopefully there won't be too many delays or anything in terms of what we're doing. St. Louis, Missouri's in the house. Good to have you. So for anyone who is paid, here's what the split budget or split method of budgeting is. Anyone who gets paid every other week, or even if you get paid 2 times a week, a split or what is called a bi-weekly budget can really be the best way to actually attack your finances, right? You get paid on the 1st, you pay the bills on the 1st. You get paid on the 15th, you pay the bills on the 15th. Now, it's more complicated, obviously, if you're like me and get paid every 2 weeks or every 14 days, right? It's a little more complicated for you. It's not much complicated, much more complicated. But the split method of budgeting is sort of I think of it as sort of a bite-sized way to kind of look at your money, right? And instead of, I do a full monthly budget, but I do it on one spreadsheet split between 2. So on one spreadsheet, every single month, a separate spreadsheet for every month, you'll see the things that need to be paid the first 2 weeks on the 1st, and the things that need to be paid the second 2 weeks on the 15th, split into 2 different columns. I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you can see what I'm saying. Mrs. Moore in the house. Thank you so much for being here, Mrs. Moore. So it's a split method of budgeting, and everybody has their own unique way. I get it, right? Personal finance is personal, whatever works for you. But It really, really works for me well and has worked for me for quite a long time. I asked a poll question in the community tab in YouTube yesterday. I said, "Do you do a monthly budget that is unique each month, written down on a spreadsheet and zero based?" I would say I have it right in front of me actually. Only 36% of the people said yes. That means 50, and then 53% of people said no. And I had about 450 votes. 53% people said no, I don't, right? About 10% said sort of. So we got 63% roughly that said no, and about 36% said yes, which kind of falls in line to what the other studies and research shows about doing a budget, right? So it's pretty important, guys. And sometimes, we talk about a lot of things on this channel, right? We talk about how to manage your investments, how to, how to grow money, how to make money, how to side hustles. And we also talk about, of course, the basics of money, which is the budgeting, the net worth statement, and all those things. So we hit all these things. We also talk a lot about how to think about money, how to think differently about money, how to think more like you're going to actually win with money instead of lose. So we talk about a lot of things with money. And sometimes we dig down here into the granular things like budgeting, right? Because it's really, really important in my opinion. So, in my opinion, the split method of budgeting, which some people call a biweekly budget, is one of it's the absolute best thing that happened to me to help me be in control and have power over my money, right? Gave me sort of a hands-on approach because it forced me to look at my budget at least twice a month, right? So two times a month, I got to at least two times a month, I got to look at my budget. I can't just write a budget and go. I have to come back and visit that thing on the spreadsheet at least twice a month, probably more than that, right? Right. It also helps you kind of make adjustments. Listen, you're basically with the split method of budget, you're basically structuring your budget around your paychecks. Okay. So you're sort of planning each time you get paid, you have a plan for your money every time you get paid, right? The budget is budgeted around your paychecks. By the way, what's a zero-based budget? Somebody asked me in the comments, from the poll last night on the community tab. Said, I don't even know what a zero-based budget is. A zero-based budget is just a budgeting method that involves you assigning every single dollar of your income that comes in to a specific purpose. So that at the end of the day, at the end of the month, your income minus your expenses equals zero because you've accounted for every single dollar. Zero based is just means there's nothing left at the zero left at the end of the month. You're done. You spent it all somewhere on stuff. Now you didn't spend it on just anything. You spent it on what you told it to spend on, right? And the term zero-based budget really was a term from business back in the 1970s, right? But people kind of over the years, 80s and 90s, started adopting it as a way to budget your money and control your own personal finances in your household, right? But listen, budgets are a personal thing. You need to make sure that you do what works for you and what you are comfortable with. If you don't do a budget or you do it differently than I do it, that's okay, right? But if you do a budget and you're not really happy with it, you don't really feel like it's the best way to do or something, then please, please, please go ahead and consider doing it the way that I do it. Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Let's see here. I was literally just sitting here thinking on how to improve my budget. Hey, fantastic. Glad you're here. This can help you out quite a bit. Philly suburbs, Grayman's in the house. Right on. Hello from Smart. Hey, Kimmy Apple in San Antonio. Good to have you as well. Thank you so much for being here. As I said before, guys, my connection is a little wobbly on my internet right now. So bear with me and hopefully we can make sure that we have a stronger connection as we go along. And if we do cut out, just know that I'm going to keep talking because you'll probably be able to hear me. You might just not be able to see the video. So please stay with me. I appreciate it. And also please hit the like button below. Please share, if you know somebody that's struggling with a budget, struggling with money, please feel free to share the link to this video. And always feel free to, if you're watching this on replay, to drop me a comment below and I'll do my best to help you answer. But a lot of people struggle with budget. A lot of people won't admit they struggle with a budget, right? But we don't have to we try to make this thing really, really simple. Let me actually share my screen with you. But by the way, um, No, we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, let's go ahead and share my screen, see what we got here. Let's see here. Boom, boom, bada bing, bang, and then bang, bang, bang. Just kidding, guys. All right, let's see. Um, let's see if that's it. Yep, blank sheet. Listen, I want to do this from a straight up blank sheet of paper. Okay. So bear with me, guys. I want to do this from a blank sheet of paper because I want you to see that budgeting is not very difficult. It doesn't have to be very complex or complicated. It doesn't have to be anything that is hard to do, or I got to go out and get a template because I want to make sure I'm doing it right. No, you be your own template, right? You be your own template. I'm going to make up a budget right here in front of you guys, and I'm going to do a split budget right here in front of you. And it's gonna be quick, right? It's gonna be quick. Me personally, so you guys know, I get paid, twice a week. I'm sorry, twice a week. I get paid 2 times, I get paid every other month. I mean, every other week, like every 14 days, right? Biweekly paychecks, right? Some of you get paid on the 1st and 15th. This method is gonna work for either one of them, right? So, I'm gonna actually adjust some columns here, guys. Bear with me here. And just do this thing real fast. And I say real fast, won't be super fast, but it'll be fast enough, right? So let me start off with this. Let's see. Um, by the way, let me say this too. Even though if I get paid twice a month, if I get paid 2 times a month, the 1st and 15th, I only get 24 checks a month. If I get paid every other week, I get 26 checks. I'm sorry, a month. 24 checks a year versus 26 checks a year. So if I get paid the 1st and 15th of every month, that's 24 checks a year. If I get paid every 2 weeks, that's 26 checks a year, right? So understand that if you get paid every 2 weeks, you really get an extra 2 checks a year. And we'll talk about those a little bit as well, right? But the key is I'm only going to use one spreadsheet, one page, and I'm going to split this page into two. That's why I call it the split method, right? You're splitting this thing up by the first couple of weeks and the second couple of weeks. Here's the big key though. I didn't mention this. I'll mention this. I only pay my bills 2 times a month, period. That's it, right? I only pay my bills 2 times a month. That's the big key. I don't pay bills all throughout the month when they're due. No, I pay them 2 times a month. I commit to paying them 2 times a month. I don't even necessarily pay them when they're due. I pay them on the 2 times a month when I pay them on the 1st and 15th, period. Right? If it's due on the 28th, I might not pay it to the 1st, depending on how I have my budget set up. If it's due on the 5th, I might pay it on the 1st, depending on how my budget's set up. If it's due on the 23rd, I might pay it on the 15th, depending on how my budget is set up. So my budget dictates the fact that I pay the bills twice a month, and I don't trip on the due dates. Now, let me just be clear. I pay them before or right around, obviously, when they're due. But I don't, if it's due on the 10th, I pay it on the 1st or I'll pay it on the 15th, depending on how it falls in my budget. So up front, automatically, I'm already in control, right? Because I'm telling my bills when I'm going to pay them. I'm not letting the bills dictate to me. I say, listen, I'm going to pay the bills on the 1st and the 15th, period, right? See, because the split method of budget, again, it allows you to have some control, and you got to be willing to take control over it, right? Now, if your bills are not due on the 1st and 15th, you need to strongly consider doing this: calling the bills and asking them to adjust your due dates. Right? You can ask them to change your pay dates as long as you're not skipping a pay date, right? Right? Trying to skip out on one. Some will do it, some won't. You might have a water bill that won't do it, but you might have an electric bill that will do it. You might have a gas bill that say, no, we can't do that. You might have a cell phone bill that will do it. So the point is you have to call them and say, hey, guys, I need you to go ahead and move my bills from the 1st or from the 3rd to the 1st, or from the 3rd to the 10th or 12th or 15th, whatever. Try to structure your bills around when they're due, and you may have to call and rearrange some of them, right? Another big thing about my particular budgeting situation is I only have 4 bills that come out automatically, right? Because they come out around the 1st and 15th. I'm good with that. So I have like a cell phone bill, a life insurance bill, a car insurance bill, and a gym bill, gym membership. Those 4 bills come out um, uh, automatically, but they come out strategically automatically around the 1st or around the 15th. And I'm okay with that. So, but the other parts, I have 2 or 3 bills that I go online and pay, right? That I actually go online when they're due and pay. But all the rest of the bills, I pay. Yes, don't beat me up. Look, you see behind me, I got an old school touch tone phone, right? I'm old school. I write a few of my bills out every single month, right? With envelopes, with stamps, okay, whatever. You can talk about me if you want. That's okay. It's the method that's worked for me for 1,000 years. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you what I do, right? But I also pay some of them online, and I have a few of them, 3 or 4 of them, actually 4 of them, that come out automatically, right? But for the most part, I like to be in control of my money and in control of when I pay the bills. So for the vast majority, I pay them, right? So I'm being like a real CFO of the household, right? A real certified financial, not certified, a real chief financial officer of the household, a real stickler, and trying to be detailed about the bills and the spending. So the first key is that I'm putting a lot of intention on focusing on the budget, right? A lot of intention and a lot of focus on the budget. All right. So again, I write bills 1 time a month. I do a split method budget. Some call it a biweekly budget, where I pay the bills on the 1st and 15th, not all throughout the month. Okay. So let me show you what I mean. By the way, again, you can use this method if you get paid twice a month, or if you get paid every other Friday or whatever, or you get paid on the 1st and 15th, doesn't matter, right? So 26 checks a year is what I get. Some of you might get 24. By the way, those extra 2 checks, they usually come about 6 months apart, right? That you have this extra check. Now, you're not getting paid anything extra. They're just dispersing it in 26 times instead of dispersing it in 24 times, right? So again, I use my own template for budgeting. I have never used a budgeting template. I've seen a lot of them, and a lot of people have pitched me some and sent me some, but I don't use any templates. I use my own template on a blank spreadsheet just like this. Why? Because I'm not against templates, but sometimes they can be a bit much, right? They can be unnecessarily complicated, and they can be filled with too much stuff that I don't want. I like to keep this thing very, very, very simple, right? Very simple. So let's make a budget on this blank spreadsheet. So at the top, I list income. Let me pull something out real quick, guys. Give me 2 seconds here. Boom, boom. Hopefully you're still seeing my screen here. Let's see here. Let's go here. Nope. Let's go here. Let's go here. I want to pull that one out. All right. All right. So let's go back to hours. Here we are with hours. All right. So income. First things first, guys. By the way, let me do this up front. Let me call this a no, we don't have to call it a month. Let's call it monthly income right here. We call that monthly. I'm just going to do it real quick for you guys to show you what it looks like, what mine looks like. And by the way, this is almost precisely what my budget has looked like on a spreadsheet for the last 7 years since I've been doing it on a spreadsheet. Right? Let's say monthly income wise. Um, let's say monthly income is going to be, let's see here. Let me figure it out. 28, let's say 2,800. Let's say 2,800. I'm just making up numbers now. These aren't my numbers, but I'm making these numbers up. 2,800. Wait a minute. Okay. Okay. By the way, we want these to be in dollars, so we'll go here. Only no decimal points. So income $2,800 every 2 weeks. Let's just this could be 2 people, this could be 1 person, and we're gonna do different columns here. So $2,800 every couple of weeks. Let's call it that. Um, let's see here. Oh, let's go down here and do expenses. And we will say we'll do it about right here. We'll call this um let's call it biweekly expenses, and we might change that in a bit. All right. And you notice I'm kind of doing this on the fly, guys. So bear with me. Let's see here. All right. So just reading through a few of the chats here. All right, let me get out of the chat section. All right. So biweekly expenses. And by the way, let's do this. Let's call it, let's do a column here. Let's make that a skinny column. Make this a big column. And let's call this one, um, let's not call it monthly. Let's call it just income. And we'll call this one over here income. Remember, we're splitting this thing right down the middle. And we'll call this 2,800. And this one's going to be a column. It'll probably be, nope, let's go back. All right. Here, we'll call that money as well. And so bi-weekly. So all we're doing up top, and we'll make this look pretty in just a few minutes. Bear with me here. All right. So bi-weekly expenses here, and we're going to do bi-weekly expenses here, right? So let's start off bi-weekly expenses. Let's say, okay, I'm a Christian guy, guys. So at the very top of all my budgets, I have giving, right? So giving can be tithe, giving can be whatever you want to call it. We'll just call it giving, all right? It's at the very top of all of my budgets, believe it or not, for the last 20 years, 23 years, giving, always give, right? Now, for some of you, you might think, I can't do that. No, yeah, I make it a point of. I put it at the very top of all of my budgets. And then the next thing is food, right? I'm going to do food every couple of weeks. I'm not going to do food just one time throughout the month. We're going to do rent. Let's call it a mortgage because I have a mortgage. 1 second here. And I'm just going to run down this thing, guys. So bear with me. If you got a question, feel free and put a Q by it in the chat section, and I will look at it and rap to you about it. And I want to give you a few things along the way here. So food, let's do, we call it mortgage. I do mortgage. All right, give me a second here, man. I tell you what, guys, I am getting it together. All right. So mortgage, we'll get the numbers in. We'll just put all the expenses in first. All right. Let's leave this one blank, or let's leave this one. Let's call this one extra for now. We'll change that in a minute. What else do I have to pay? Let's see. Let's call it gas. Let's say car. Let's say car gas and car maintenance, right? So we got to take care of our transportation. You can call it transportation. You call it what you want. That's why I like to have do it myself, because I can call it pretty much what I want. I have older cars, guys, so I don't have brand new cars that don't need any maintenance. So I got to put aside a little money every single month for my maintenance of my cars. How do you spell maintenance? Is that right? That can't be right. That doesn't look right. Maintenance, right? Not maintenance. One of my claims to fame, guys, is that I was second in my 4th grade spelling bee. It's one of my most famous moments of all time in my life, right? How about miscellaneous stuff? Because I always like to put aside a little bit of money for things that happen in terms of you have to buy toiletries and things like that for your home, right? So I'll just call it miscellaneous household. How about what else can we put up here? Let's think about it. How about let's do this. Let's call this about I said life insurance. So let's do life insurance. Let's do I didn't have a gym membership. I'm just giving you all of these things. I'm going to kind of lay it out, and we'll talk about what numbers we want to subscribe to it. We got some subscriptions and so forth. So let's plug in some subscriptions. Let's see what you're talking about down there. Cool. All right. Whatever you want to call it, right? whatever it may be. Could be Spotify, could be whatever you got, right? Also, every single 2 weeks, have a little yearly savings, and that's for the HOA fees, maybe Christmas, maybe property taxes, whatever it could be, right? It could be all different types of things. Let's see here. Also, so I do the things. These are the things that are due on the first, right? Right now, over here are things that are paid on the 15th, right? And I don't necessarily have these two columns, right? I don't have these two rows, right? So you can have these rows if you want, but I'm labeling them right now for you guys, and hopefully this is big enough where you can see it. Not sure if you can. I think you can see it. Yeah, you can actually see it pretty good. All right, cool. So now listen, haircut, I'm bald, right? So I haven't been to the barbershop in about 20 years, right? So some people, yeah, throw in the gambling, right? All that good stuff, right? Right. But for me, I've cut even when I did have hair back in the early 90s, I used to cut my own fade, cut my box haircut, right? Had my box and all that faded out, all that good stuff, put my part in there, had to get the clippers nice and sharp to get that part. But now I do all this maintenance, look at it. You can tell I do this maintenance by myself, right? So I don't go to the barber shop, but if it's there, you put in here what you need to put in here, right? Totally up to you to do this the way that is best for you. Let me actually bold this, if you will. Let me see if I can bold it right here. Separate some stuff from each other, right? Bold that. Let's go ahead and bold those two. So we got income at the top. We got expenses coming down here. Now let's do the second week of expenses. But let's make sure we understand that we haven't plugged in the numbers just yet, right? So givings at the top. We got car insurance. We don't have car insurance. So I want to go into, we'll do it right here. We'll say food. We'll say car insurance right here. Got to pay that. You can pay it monthly. Some of you pay it every quarter. Some of you pay it every 6 months. If it's something that you pay every 6 months, you just plug it down here under yearly stuff, right? And then you'll be saving for that every single month. That's the point of that whole row right there. So car insurance. What is there? We got, our extra. Let's plug in our extra, right? Let's actually plug that in. Give me a second here. Let's plug in extra. Notice extra happens to be on the same line as the other extra. Car gas we got car gas. I always do that twice a month. I don't do it just once a month. Car maintenance, I do that twice a month, right? Let's see here. Miscellaneous, I put aside money for miscellaneous every couple of weeks. Again, you can do this how you want to do it, right? Every 2 weeks, when I go to the grocery store no, I go to the grocery store actually every week. So I'll show you about that in a second. So also we can't forget our basic utilities, right? So we got to pay for water. We have to pay, let's call it a cell phone. That's not our utilities, but we'll call it that. Let's go with electricity. Let's go with our gas bill, right? Let's go with, let me think out loud here. Let's go with, internet. Let's go with internet. Security, right? And yearly savings. Okay. So I have this column right here in two places. You don't have to have it in two places, right? You can have it in one place, right? Totally up to you. So basically what I have here in terms of a budget, I've started the budget. I just mapped it out real quick. I looked at all my bills that come in every single month, and I put this thing down on paper. I split it into two. This is week one. This is the first. This is the 15th. Split. This is the split method of budgeting. How much money do I have to spend on this stuff? $2,800. How much do I have to spend on this stuff? $2,800. Now, let's talk about some actual numbers here. All right, let's plug in the numbers real quick. So let's say that for giving, let's go with 200. I'm going to say I'll give $200 every 2 weeks. All right. And let's put it over here also. So let's see, food, let's call that, I'm just throwing out some numbers, guys. We'll see if it works in the end. let's say mortgage, or this could be mortgage. I'll put mortgage slash rent. This could be, let's call it $1,500. That's pretty reasonable. Now, I don't have to pay rent twice in the month, right? I only pay it with the checks I get on the first because it's due on the first, right? So extra, let's leave extra blank for now. We'll come back with it. Gas, I pay about 50 bucks every 2 weeks in gas, right? I don't use a whole lot of gas. And I have an old Toyota Camry. This is me personally. Now, again, do this to suit yourself. I'm just showing you my budget, which this is not my exact budget or my exact numbers, but it's it's I won't say it's close, but it's very similar. All right. So car maintenance, about 50 bucks every 2 weeks. I put aside just in case I have a water pump go out. I have a battery that needs to be changed. I have a couple of tires that go bad. So I have a separate emergency fund for my car. If I go 3 or 4 months without having anything wrong with my car, guess what? Now I got $300 or $400 that I can spend on getting the oil changed, the brakes done, whatever it has to be, right? So for household miscellaneous items and stuff, about 50 bucks every 2 weeks is about what I spend. In terms of toiletries, it could be things like I don't know. It could be a lot of things, right? Could be a lot of things. Life insurance, let's call that 75 bucks. Now I don't have to pay for life insurance twice throughout the month, just one time, right? It could be less. It could be 50 bucks, 40 bucks, whatever. Subscriptions, let's call subscriptions gym membership. Let's call that 40 bucks, and let's call subscriptions 40 bucks. Again, could be more than you spend, could be less than you spend, right? And then let's call yearly, let's call that 100 bucks. Because if I do 100 bucks every 2 weeks for this, that is going to be $200 a month. That's $2,400 a year. That can take care of taxes. That can care of getting tags on my car. It could take care of paying off the homeowners associate, whatever it could pay for, right? Could pay for some Christmas gifts, right? So $100 every 2 weeks of that. Now these things, now this is, let me give you guys my take on this, because every budget template you see will talk about these things, right? Every budget template you see will talk about a few things. It will talk about fixed expenses and variable expenses. All right. Now let me give you my take on fixed expenses and variable expenses. All right. Let's see here. Oh yeah, guys, do me a favor. Hit the like button, hit the, share the link, all that good stuff. If you're not a subscriber, your first time here, please consider subscribing to the channel. So, and I know some of you are here, you want to talk about investments and you want to talk about stocks and all that. We talk about that at times on the channel. We don't talk about that all the time on the channel. Sometimes it's just, how do you just manage your money, right? So let me get back to this. Here's my take on this fixed expenses versus variable expenses. Okay. Because every person you hear talk about budgeting, they always talk about, well, you got to figure out what are your fixed expenses and what are your variable expenses, right? Me personally, I do not separate my expenses into fixed and variable. In my opinion, it's sort of meaningless to do that. This is my personal opinion. Why is it meaningless to separate your expenses into fixed versus variable? Because think about it. Your electricity is a variable expense. Why? Because it's probably going to change. Let's not say electricity, because you can get on an even plan for a lot of places and pay the same amount. But let's use it anyway, because sometimes electricity can go up and down. The bill will be $90 one month and $200 one other month. So it's variable. It changes, right? Electricity. And mortgage or your rent is a fixed expense, right? But guess what? They both got to be paid, right? So since they both got to be paid, why does it matter if it's fixed or variable? In my opinion, yeah, you can, because your fixed expenses are going to be the same every month, and you can just carry that number over, and your variable expenses change, and you can affect those. I get all that. But mortgage got to be paid, electricity got to be paid, whether it's fixed, whether it's variable, whether it's fixed variable or variable fixed, who cares? Right? Who cares if it's variable or fixed? It's still got to be paid. So let's put it on the budget and let's play it and pay it, and not try to come up with this column that says fixed and this column that says variable. That's too much. Remember, I want to keep this thing simple. So it doesn't matter if it's fixed or variable. Some of you will have a budgeting template where you separate them. That to me, that's extra brain power that is unnecessary. Now, if you do that, I'm not mad at you at all because you do what works for you. But I've never heard a really good reason for why we need to separate our expenses into fixed and variable. So me, I don't sweat it. I put them all on the budget because I'm gonna pay them all because they all got to be paid. So I list what I'm gonna be paid and I pay it, right? So as you see on the spreadsheet, income at the top, split up into two different split into two different areas. This is a monthly budget that it's a split method monthly budget all on one page. And I will do a different page for each month. So when it comes to the next month, I just duplicate this page in my spreadsheet, and then I make the necessary changes in terms of the numbers the next month, right? I make the necessary changes to the numbers the next month, right? So we see the income at the top, that's the money you have available. That's the income, what's coming into you. The expenses in those two columns are the outgo, right? By the way, I didn't say this, but I'm going to say this. If you want to get an easy view of a split budget, one thing that you might do if you want to get organized like this, you might go to a monthly calendar and use a monthly calendar in conjunction with your monthly budget so that you know when you get paid on it. Now, some people do that, some people don't. It's fine. If you do that, that's good. If you want to be that organized, so you can have sort of a handy snapshot of the money that's coming in, and when you know you're going to be paying bills on the 1st and 15th, but when is your paychecks? When are you getting your money? Right? If you get paid the 1st and 15th, no need probably. You know it's pretty easy. But if you get paid every 2 weeks, it might help you organize, right? Whether you use a paper calendar, a calendar on your smartphone, whatever you want to do, right? Now, let's keep going with our numbers real quick. Let me just keep plugging in some of these numbers because I sort of left off there. But okay, so we got all of our numbers except for extra. I'm gonna explain this one to you guys in a little bit. But we got food, we got giving, we got extra. We'll leave that blank again. Car insurance. Car insurance is going to be let's plug in about $175 for that every single month if you pay monthly. Remember though, some of you don't pay monthly. I get it. Now, water bill, I don't know. Let's say $75 for this. Let's say $75 for that. We'll figure it out in the end and see if it's right. Let's say $150 a month for electricity. That may be a little high for electricity, but we'll figure it out at the end. Gas bill, $90. Let's go with $90 for that. Let's go, I don't know. Let's go 90. Let's go, let's say internet and all this good stuff. Let's say you got the highest, best speed internet, which I try to have, and lo and behold, I have a weak signal today, right? Security, let's go $50, right? You got a little security on your home, some cameras set up, and all that good stuff. So here's what we got. All right, we said we bring home about $2,800 a month. Now, what you have to do is you have to arrange your bill pay and your bills according to what you bring in. Right? So let me do a little math here. That's $24. That's $25.05. And when you do a spreadsheet, by the way, in Google, it gives you the sum here in the bottom right-hand corner when you highlight the sales. So that's $25.05, right? So that's $295 left over. Boom, that goes right there into my extra. And I'll say this could be savings. This could be your savings. It could be your debt payoff. It could be a big ticket item, right? It could be anything. Let's call it big item, right? It could be anything. Again, I'll replicate that over here, right? So on this side, though, let's add the numbers up. Our bills came up to $1,615. Well, what is 2,800 minus 1,615? 1185. So let's plug in 1185 here. Now, this column is 2,800, just like our income. Now this column over here is 2,800, just like our income. We just did a zero-based budget. We spent all the money on paper first. So listen to me, when you want to go get Chipotle, right? When you want to get Chipotle, it has to come from your food budget or your miscellaneous household budget or your savings budget. If you want to go to Red Lobster, it has to come from your food budget, your saving, this amount of money, or the money for here. So what you've done is you spent all the money on paper first, right? Notice what I did with these the savings or the debt, this right here. Notice what I did. I actually okay, I actually put a specific number to them. I didn't just say, "Oh, I'll just spend whatever on food and whatever's left over, I'll put towards my debt, paying off debt." Oh, I'll just spend, 400, or I'll just give $150 or $300 this 2 weeks, and whatever's left over, I'll put towards my savings. No, I made savings and debt payoff, or whatever you want to use this column as, the extra. This is the cushion, right? This is the cushion of money left over every single month, every single 2 weeks. I assigned that somewhere. I made it purposely go to somewhere. Right? I didn't just say, well, I'll go ahead and grab this subscription. I'll pay for this extra drink, and I'll go ahead and I'll put $150 in my card this month. And you know what? Whatever's left over, you have to be careful about that, right? You have to be careful about that. I actually want to do a unique zero-based monthly budget every single month. So I have to take control and power over the money and tell all the money what to do. Right? So the 1185, it's not let's go party, let's go on vacation, let's kick it, let's buy a bottle and a table at the club, or let's go splurge, let's go buy some Nike, some Air Jordans, let's go get the braids in my hair. Let's not, it's none of that. Everything is focused. Everything is specific. I know you guys are probably saying, "Hey, that's a lot of discipline." That's what it is, a lot of discipline. The other thing, what do you notice about the budget that I did, guys? What do you notice about how it's laid out? The expenses are laid out, right? What do you notice about the expenses, right? The expenses are sort of placed in the most important to the least important. Almost, right? There's some exceptions there. But I kind of go with the most important things at the top of the budget, right? Giving, food, rent or mortgage, the saving that I'm trying to do, right? The car stuff, and then the gym maintenance, the gym membership, and some subscriptions and things are at the bottom, right? So it's sort of a psychological thing for me. It's kind of what I do. It's not necessary to do, right? But you have to split these things up, because for some of you, you might have to put your water bill over here because the water bill is due on the 5th of every month. And so you want to pay it close to the 1st. Or you might say, you know what? My mortgage is not due till the 10th. And they usually give me a 10-day grace period. Some people do that, right? You might pay it over here, right? Your gym membership may be due on the 18th. And so it might go over here in this column for these 2 weeks instead of this 2 weeks. You have to figure out what works for you and your bills. You have to shift and move these expenses around so that you have enough money to pay all of them when they're due, right? So once you've tallied up your expenses and you compare them with your income, then you determine what's left over, and that's the amount that you assign and designate towards this little extra piece that kind of has a zero on it at first, right? And that's a zero-based budget, because I'm spending all of the money down to a zero. The income minus the expenses is zero for both 2 weeks, right? So, and the other thing is this: when you first do this type of budget for the first several months, you may want to have an additional column here for actual, right? So you might want to spread this out and put actual right here so you can sort of monitor and know, kind of get a feel for what you're going to actually be spending, right? Actual. So this could be your budget and this could be your actual. Totally up to you. Your budget and your actual, right? So you have to, so you have what you budgeted and you have what you actually paid for it, based on the fact that you went back at the end of the month and sort of reconciled your books, so to speak, right? And that way, the first few months, you can kind of get a feel for what you've been spending on the car, and maybe you have to adjust some of your numbers, right? It's very possible that you might have to adjust some of your numbers. But listen, the kicker, the thing is this: trust me on this, guys. When you put your financial situation like this on paper, you begin to clearly see the things that can be cut back on and the things that you can't cut back on. It brings your whole financial situation into sort of a bigger, a more clearer picture. And let me actually do this real quick. Make that thing a little bit bigger so you can see it a little better. So it kind of puts everything it gives you a lot of clarity, right? What you've essentially done here is you've done one spreadsheet and created a split method budget for the month, for what's going to happen on the first of the month and what's going to happen on the 15th of the month with your money. Your budget does not have to be any more complicated than what you see in front of you. Now, we can come up here and we can add some color to it. We can make it look pretty, right? We can come over here and do this. We can come down here. Well, we can come up here and make the income green, so you feel like it's a little green, right? We can come down here and make the expenses sort of red, right? So because it's red, it's going out, so it's red, right? That's a little too dark, but you get what I'm saying. We could do a lot of things, right? But this is your personal budget. This is how I've done 359 budgets in a row, right? 359 budgets in a row. Simple. By the way, guys, again, hit the like button for me. Share the video. If you know somebody, share this link, right? And if you're watching this on replay, feel free to drop a comment. I'm going to get to the chat here. If you got a question, I'm going to get to the chat in just a moment, guys. And, let me know, do you guys have some budgeting tips? I mean, what is some of your budgeting tips? Let me know in the comments below if you're watching this on replay, right? Also, check out Mint Mobile, my partner on the video, as always. There's a link to them in the description box below. Largest 5G network. They use it. Great service. Excellent. Also, check out 24 Laws of Money in the description box as well. Please feel free to visit me also at smartmoneybro.com. And but remember, guys, I only do auto pay for a few bills, and that's different from a lot of people who use their use their card to do every single bill pay. I just don't do that. I'm kind of old school, right? For bills that aren't on auto pay, by the way, you can always create some type of upcoming alert that the bill is coming up, right? So you got to make sure you pay it online, or you got to pay it if it's in the mail or whatever, right? You can receive some type of reminder on your app or what have you, right? Now, the beauty is you got to monitor this thing more than once a month. You can't just do this thing one time a month and then leave it and you're done. Now that when you split it up, you got to go look at it every 2 weeks, right? You got to watch your spending, watch your upcoming bills, monitor your savings, right? And don't forget to reconcile this thing. Make sure it matches up with what's in your bank, what came out of your account or whatever, if you're not doing it, if you're doing your stuff online, right? But it forces you to focus on the budget. It forces you to focus on the budget. Now, I said earlier, if you get paid every 2 weeks, you get 26 checks. If you get paid twice a month, you get 24 checks, right? So here's the kicker. 2 extra times a year, you're going to get, and some people say extra checks in a month or whatever it could be. Your checks are going to fall in between the 15th and the 1st, right smack dab in the middle, at least twice a year, or at least only twice a year. And when that happens, you got to be ready, right? What do you do with those 2 extra checks that you get throughout the year? You can put more money towards your emergency fund. You can pay off some debt. You can put more money towards your savings, right? When you get that extra 2 checks a year, it's going to feel like a bonus, right? The first thing I do when I get my extra 2 checks every year is I put money to the side for the things that I'm going to do on a weekly basis. Remember, I go to the grocery store once a week. So I need a week, right? A week's worth of groceries set aside from that extra check. I need a week's worth of gas for the car set aside, maybe. Make sure you put those things aside from that extra bonus check, right? And then you can do what you want. Pay down debt, like I say, put more towards your savings, whatever. Put more towards the things you need. Maybe you put more towards your Christmas giving or whatever it could be. Make sure you give some of that money, whatever it could be, right? Move it into your investments, right? So the beauty about this split method of budgeting is that it takes into account the timing that you get paid. You're paying bills based on when you get paid. You're not just doing a monthly budget and you're paying it someday throughout the month. You're doing it every 2 weeks, right? It's easier to track your money when you do it this way. And it forces you to look at your money more and pay more attention to your money, right? And it helps you track every single dollar you bring in and every single dollar you send out better because you're looking at it more, right? But you got to be careful. Like if in my case, I got to be careful not to splurge those 2 extra checks every year, right? And you also have to make sure you move around your bill pay dates so you're not way behind on your bills and paying late fees, right? You got to be careful about that. Honestly, though, there's not a lot of cons to focusing on your money more or to spending more time looking at a budget, right? It's not a lot of cons to that, right? Now, some people say, I heard some people in the comments when I did the poll on YouTube say, you know what? I don't do a budget, right? And I hear this chatter on social media. Don't do a budget. No, never do a budget. No, a budget is a mistake. Wrong, in my opinion. A budget is not a mistake at all. A budget is wonderful. I'm 359 straight budgets in since September of 1994 when I got my first job as a teacher. Budget, budget, budget. Notebook, ledger. I used to get these ledgers for about 15 years or so. I used to get these ledgers from Office Max, Office Depot, whatever. And the ledgers that are black or green and they're hardcover, and you flip them over and you write down. I did them in those for years and years and years. I've only been doing a budget online on an Excel spreadsheet or Google spreadsheet for the last 6 years, 6, 7 years. So I did it for years and years just by hand, right? But a budget is important. Why is a budget important? Why? Hopefully you guys got that down. Let me get out of that. Why is a budget important? What's the purpose of the budget? The budget sets up sort of your guardrails, right? Keeps you in line. The budget is also your accountability partner on paper. You're being held accountable to yourself or your spouse or whoever you're with. You're being held accountable for what you spend. See, a